G'day and welcome to the Inforunners. I'm Execute and today I'm joined by Seer the Sixth. How you doing, buddy?
I'm good. How about yourself, bud?
I'm freshly shaved and look like a baby. No,
Yeah.
I'm all good. Don't look like a hobo anymore. No big beard. Yeah, and Game of Thrones today. Whoops, which was pretty cool. The final. So yeah, we
got
just
my I got my office shirt, Bears Beats, and Battlestar Galactica, because The Office is the best show in the world.
right. So speaking of offices, today's episode. This has been a really kind of a little bit of a tricky one for us to put together, but fundamentally, what this episode is there's been a lot of stuff people have been talking about since the Forbes article came out. There's been the Forbes article itself. There's been heaps of people talking about how, like, just regurgitating what Forbes said. Then there's been people
Yeah.
going, I think they're wrong because they missed these points, or they, all this type of stuff. And not one video has talked about some of the stuff we're going to talk about today. But there's one massive key point that we'll bring up in a little bit. But we're going to kind of start at the beginning and kind of go through, I think. And I think one of the interesting ones that I know was brought up on last week's Star Citizen Live was the fact that they keep saying CIG has 500 developers, and then Disco got pulled up and Sean Chase says, no, it's not 500 developers, it's 500 employees, and then only a percentage of that is developers. Now,
You are correct.
I think if you look at any business or office, as you were alluding to with the office, is you have people that kind of work in that actual thing, and then there's those people that are kind of like spin-off jobs on the side. So if you looked at them having 4 offices, they would have, a receptionist for every place, you'd have a cleaner for every place, and that's just that. And then you've got all the other things like IT people, you've got the QA people, and then
Yep.
once you actually get into development, they did also bring this up on the Star Citizen Live, that if you got into just the area of designers, they're such a small subset, but then they have different designers for different parts of the game. So
Yeah, it's a matter of logistics. You got to have people to overall support the developers, which are the ones that are actually making things and making the assets that actually go into the game.
yeah,
So I totally understand that. From the fact that I work for a large company, I know that not everybody is going to be building or working on airplanes at Boeing. There's a lot of logistics that goes into and stuff, like supporting customers and all this other stuff.
yep. And the other thing is they kind of really had to build this engine from scratch. Everyone's like, oh, it's on the Crytek engine. But if you've listened to anything, at one point they called it the Star engine. They turned around and said, oh, we've rewritten 2/3
Yeah.
of the engine. Then they've made this jump to Lumberyard, which is fundamentally was very similar engine. It only took them 2 or 3 days to integrate it. But the point is,
Yeah.
the tech for this game didn't exist. That's just it in a
It
fundamental
didn't.
nutshell. And that's just another part of it. I think the other thing is one of the things they brought up in the Ford's article was feature creep. But back in the day, they asked us at around, I think it was around 50 million. They asked us, "Oh, do you want us to keep doing
Yes.
stretch goals?" And they did keep doing stretch goals. And then eventually, Chris himself was the one that cut it off. And the community was disappointed. We want more, like they wanted this bigger and better game. And now years later, it's like, oh, maybe we shouldn't have had it so big,
The one question that is always asked because of the things like the stretch goals when the community said, yes, we want more. And I see it on Reddit all the time, and people have the right to ask, but it's like, oh, when do you guys think the game's going to be released? And it's like, okay, when you say game, which one are you talking about? Because remember, Squadron 42 and the Star Citizen itself are 2 different entities. Squadron 42 is the single player campaign, and then Star Citizen is the persistent universe. And personally, it's like they said they're going to keep adding the modules to it. It's never really going to be complete. They're just going to keep adding to it. But essentially, Squadron 42, they're trying to go for a beta of like 2020, if I'm correct. Maybe 21, 22
I
for
think
actual release.
they were initially aiming on the roadmap for the end of this year, but it looks like that's going to be delayed. But anyway,
I don't think it's going to be released by this year. I think we'll see something, but who knows? They could prove me wrong, and if they do, awesome.
and then there was a couple of videos that came out that were kind of like rebuttal videos, like going. The one I'm thinking of in particular was by a gentleman by the name of Morphologist, and he did a
Yes.
very well structured video along the lines of why is it taking so long. But even he did not have all the data, and every single video I've watched. Now I've watched probably akin to 30 plus videos at this point.
Yeah.
And nobody has put in the fact, and this is just the big thing for me, and I can't believe, and that's why this video is titled this, by the way, is that nobody is talking about that the main focus of CIG is working on Squadron 42, and all we're seeing of Star Citizen, all we're actually being shown as Star Citizen, is this overflow of stuff that is made for both games that we see that is in both. Now, nobody other than CIG can say the percentage of what we're seeing is this, but it's like the tip of the iceberg. It's definitely we're seeing the smaller of the two parts. So say, let's just say for argument's sake, say it was 50-50, which it's not. It's going to be more like 80-20 or something like that. We are seeing a really small part of that, and because of that, it seems to be taking way longer than it should, because we're only seeing overflow, and there is no way it takes an entire development team an entire year to build Hurston. Like that
No.
is not a very big area for an entire development place of 500-ish people. We've just gone through that before, but my whole point being is the development is taking way too long, but that's because we're not seeing it. We're only seeing this really small part of it, and I just can't believe nobody else brought that up, and I find it really, really strange, and I think it's a really highlighting example of this whole argument, or not argument, it's not an argument, what is it, a debate?
I would say debate. Yeah, debate.
Is that nobody except CIG has all the information.
That's correct.
And I think really fundamentally at the end of the day, until they release Squadron 42, we're not going to have any information. That's just it. We can only work with what we've got, and I think people are missing some really big key points, and we found one. And I'm not saying we have them all either, but I think at the end of the day, you can't jump the gun on this stuff. And I think CIG are definitely not wanting to share that stuff about Squadron 42 because they also want to keep the storyline a secret and all that. But I do think they could share a bit more of it. But it's not that far away now. We're in this, the final kind of stretch in the last kind of... Sorry?
2019 is already halfway done, so it's like... I mean, this year's been going by incredibly fast. I'm sure for a lot of other people it's been going by like sluggish, but I mean,
it's picking up for me. It always the first part always goes really slow, but after you get past first patch of Star Citizen, it seems to pick up a bit after that. But, I think we could kind of safely say beta is 12 months at least. We're in that 12-month window now. We're more likely to see it within the next 12 months, hopefully. They were aiming for the end of the year. We're almost halfway through the year now, so you would say even if they delay it by a couple of months, they should, they could delay it by 6 months, but they'll still kind of be in that window.
Do it right. That's the main thing.
That's the other
part. Don't rush it. Do it right. Take your time.
If this is the backlash now, so to speak, from an article, what is the backlash going to be like if the game comes out and it's shit? They can't stuff this up.
Like the release of No Man's Sky, when there was like all this thing that was promised and then it wasn't released, which, I mean, there was more to it. It wasn't just like the whole company's fault. People said stuff that should not have been said because it wasn't ready. But like one thing you did brought up about the point is the fact that yes, their Squadron 42 is the priority. The reason why is like it's because Squadron 42 is what's going to bring the funds like once the game is quote unquote released, because they even said eventually like ships are not going to be sold anymore. And so then what's going to be the source of revenue? It's going to be the fact that they have a single player game, because believe it or not, some people enjoy single players. I still enjoy doing single players, and hopefully one day this will get released to console, and then that just broadens the spectrum for Star Citizen altogether, and more people get to play. But I digress.
I think they'll definitely bring it to consoles eventually. I think it's silly, and I think you'd have to be closed-minded to think that they wouldn't try and open themselves to that revenue source. Look, I think the real takeaway about what we're trying to say here in this episode is we're kind of a speculation channel. I guess we really are, but
yeah,
for people that speculate a lot, we're trying to tell you that this is not something you can speculate on. I think that I think that's what we're trying to say. I didn't want to do an episode on the Forbes article. I didn't want to do I struggled with this episode because I didn't want to turn around and tell people that the data that you're coming out with is incorrect because you don't, you failed to carry the one, so to speak, on your math equation. But if you're trying to do a math question but you don't have all the relevant data, you can't come to a proper conclusion, and that's just it in a nutshell. You don't have all the data, you can't get to the end of, or you can't even get close. And the fact that you add in that one little bit that we talked about today with Squadron 42, it totally throws Morphologist's thing at least 50% out of whack, at least. Because he's missed such a huge part of it. He's talking about the whole game as Star Citizen. It's not just Star Citizen, it's Star Citizen and Squadron 42, and Star Citizen is the smaller of those two pieces. So
yeah,
it throws his... sorry?
No, I was saying, I'm thankful that we at least get a roadmap and we get a bit of Star Citizen, because if the main focus is really Squadron 42, which it is, then cool, every 3 months ish, because I know it's not definite, and they've even said it's not definite, that we get more content. And I understand it's buggy, I understand it's alpha, and it can cause a lot of grief and problems for some people, but what's the saying? You give them an inch, they take a mile. So it's some people are gonna be thankful, some people are gonna get eager and want more, and it's just the nature of the beast, really. But for me personally, I'm always excited to see what is going to be coming down the pipeline, regardless if it's just a tiny fraction of the whole thing.
Yeah, I didn't really want to talk about the Forbes article, but what I will bring up about it is I think there's two things that I didn't like about it. The fact that he used accurate facts, but then jumped forwards and backwards through time and connected them in a really way that made it look really, really bad. So I thought that was really stupid, because he took things that were from 2010 and then tried to make them relevant to 2019 and stuff like that, and that's just bad. That's just dirty journalism. The other part of it, I've just completely had a mental blank. As I do. But yeah, the personal attack, that's what it was. I think he crossed a professional line. There's a professional line of journalism, and he went into dirty journalism, and I think that's where he really lost me. When he went into their personal lives, I was just yeah, I don't trust you anymore. I would have, up until that part when I was reading the article, I was like, okay, yeah, I can see why people would see that. But then when he went into that, I went, you made this personal. He comes off like a, when you see those people like Derek Smart, or people that have been burned and they want to get out of the game and they can't get a refund. That's who he reminds me of. Whoever this person is, that's what he reminds me of. Anyway, is there anything you want to say about that?
Well, this might sound a little brutal, but one thing is that every time I see something like this, I just think to myself, cool, I don't care. Not saying oh, I don't care what they have to say. I read the article, and at the end of the day, and this is for anybody who has been watching the game, currently backing the game, look, this is, at the end of the day, it is a video game, and I want it to be released, and I've been supporting it since the beginning, but it's just down deep in your conscience. It's, do you care or do you not care about what the article has to say? Because at the end of the day, I understand the facts, I understand the risk, but cool, it's an article. Cool, people piggybacked it so they can just get clickbait and get their publicity and whatnot. But personally, I don't care. Yeah, I'm just going to say, CIG, you keep doing you, and we'll see what happens.
I think anything that's on Kickstarter, and this started out on Kickstarter, anything like that, you are backing someone on faith.
Yeah, I agree.
And sorry, I've got a little bit of a hiccups.
That's fine.
And I think fundamentally at the end, when I backed, like when I first saw that thing, that the Kickstarter video, and I was like, yeah, take my money. I just like, here, have my money. Like, back then I think it was only like $60 or something. A bounty hunter package was the first thing I kind of went in for. And all these years later, and I've spent more money and stuff like that, I still want
Guilty.
that original dream that he pitched. And yes, it has grown in scope, but only for the better, in my opinion. And I think that's why so many of us are so passionate, because he has a dream like us to make this really cool game that you wouldn't see through a normal publishing house, because they just wouldn't, they don't take those risks. And he is, we all took a risk. And I think that's the thing that most people that are not into this game will not understand, is that, yeah, we are taking a risk. And yeah, we did put a lot of money up, but we want it to succeed. That's why we did all these things. I also think you mentioned earlier that a lot of the people that are into this game are much older backers and have more disposable income. So at the very nature of those words, it is disposable. If you got into this game and you want to get out, then get out. And there are people that... There are ways to get out. Like, you know, when people go, I want a full refund, go sell your ship on the grey market. You don't have to go crying to CIG and, you know, so there are ways out. And yeah, if you lose a bit of money, you lose a bit of money. But that's what life is. It's faith and gambling. It is a little bit of a gamble. And I think at the end of the day, I don't think this game will ever hit what everyone expects it to be. You can't please everybody. But I think at the end of the day, the way things are shaping up and the technology and the things I keep seeing are impressive. And I think that's kind of where I'll kind of leave this episode, is I am impressed with where the game's going, but I don't think any of us know where it's going to end up other than CIG. And you can't speculate.
We're just going to have to wait and see. We're just going to have to wait and see. They give us Inside Star. They give us Inside Star Citizen. They give us the monthly They give us monthly updates on both Squadron 42 and the Persistent Universe. So they give us that information. They give us Citizen Con, and then at the end of the year they wrap up like everything they've done. We have roadmaps. It's not set in stone, but it at least gives us stretch goals. So I think we get a lot of updates, and if you have questions, you can always go on Spectrum and ask a question. Sometimes you'll get random people on Spectrum who are going to answer the question, but if you want a dev, then just tag them and then wait for an answer. So,
okay, I guess what I'm trying to ask you guys in the comments is, do you think it's a really important thing that a lot of people have missed? The fact that, you know, this game is a lot more in development of Squadron 42 than it is Star Citizen, and I've not seen anyone talk about it. And I've brought this up with a few other YouTubers over the week, and they said the same thing. And they're like, yeah, no one kind of said that. So do you guys think that this has kind of been a bit blown out of proportion? Do you think it's better or worse that's been skipped over? Are you prepared to go on faith with CIG? Like, I've gone this far. I've gone 8 years. I'm happy to keep riding the roller coaster. But, you know, if Squadron 42 comes out and it sucks, then, well, that'll be a different story. But I don't think it will suck. That's the thing. Like, I think they are taking their time and they're doing it right. And I'd like to know that too from you guys. How long have you waited, and how much further are you prepared to wait for this to be the game you want it to be? And quite honestly, I would wait a long time for this game to be the game I want it to be, because anything that is rushed, Anthem, or
shots fired.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of other ones. What was the other one that came out almost a year before that, and it was given heaps of crap. Oh, Destiny's another one. Like, they just keep coming, where they're pushed out really early and they basically suck. And I got a feeling that this game's going to come out and it's going to shut a lot of people up for a lot of good reasons, and they're going to go, oh, you know. And I hope it really does. I hope they do really, really well and it's successful. And I hope he retires a really old, rich, fat dude. That'd be great. But yeah, right. If you like this video, like this video. If you dislike this video, well, you can dislike it too. Leave a comment. We read everyone. We try to reply to as many as possible as well. You can join us on Discord. I'm up for having discussion about this and other things as well. If you help with your ships as well, we're doing Fix My Fleet, so we're looking for more people for that as well. He's been Seer. I've been Execute. And we'll catch you guys next time.
Have a good one, guys.